Imagine sitting down for a really high-stakes job interview. You clear your throat, introduce yourself, and then you realize the recruiter analyzing your tone and your cultural nuance is not human.
Yeah, you are actually speaking to an artificial intelligence.
It sounds like science fiction.
Yeah.
But today, we are exploring the Micro1 Language Expert interview. We will look at what to expect and how you can prepare for a completely different kind of evaluation.
This process requires a total mindset shift. In a traditional interview, a human resources manager looks at your resume. They ask standard questions. You try to build a personal connection.
But this is not like that at all.
Not at all. Here, you face an adaptive, real-time voice interview, and it is conducted entirely by an artificial intelligence recruiter named Zara.
Talking to a machine for an extended period sounds incredibly intimidating. Usually when I talk to a machine, I'm just asking it to set a timer.
Or check the weather.
Yeah, pretty much. How does this compare to a normal human conversation?
Well, the crucial difference is active listening. This system does not just read a static list of questions.
So it reacts to what you say.
Yes, it listens to your initial answers and uses them to build highly specific follow-up questions. It acts almost like sort of like a focused detective.
I see.
If you leave a gap in your story, the system notices that gap and immediately investigates it.
Candidate reports indicate the interview usually starts by evaluating your past work. The system asks candidates to describe what they do, focusing on previous language, translation, or localization experience.
That makes sense for a starting point.
But if the system acts like a detective, how should a candidate present their background?
You must be concrete from your very first sentence. Many people naturally give vague answers when they feel nervous.
Like giving generic statements.
Yes. They might say, I am a very hard worker, or I have strong translation skills. If you give an answer like that here, you create a major problem.
Because the artificial intelligence lacks data.
Exactly that. Well, it lacks data, so it will push much harder to find specific details. It will generate difficult follow-up questions to force you to provide that missing information.
That makes the process sound like a dynamic chess game. Or maybe a branching path in a video game.
That is a good way to look at it.
The details you choose to share in your very first answer determine the obstacles you face next. If you offer vague information, you give the system control. You are forcing it to interrogate you.
But if you walk down a clear path by giving good details, the next level of the interview becomes much more manageable. Control really is the key concept here.
How does a candidate maintain that control?
You should give simple, concrete examples immediately. Instead of saying you are good at translating, describe a time you handled a complex client problem.
Give a real-world scenario.
Yes. Mention the specific types of legal or medical documents you translated. Describe a specific cultural challenge you solved. By offering rich details, you satisfy the system's need for data. That keeps the interview on a smoother path.
So if a candidate successfully proves their background is solid, the machine trusts their experience. But trust does not mean the candidate actually knows the linguistics.
No, it does not.
How does the system test those core skills? Candidate reports indicate the next questions look closely at grammar, syntax, meaning, and ambiguity.
That is where the real test begins.
For example, English experts report facing specific grammar quizzes. But language is highly subjective. How does an artificial intelligence test subjective things like tone and register?
The evaluation goes far beyond just identifying a correct verb tense. The system tests whether you understand how language changes depending on the audience.
Like formal versus informal speech.
Yes. Candidates frequently have to translate or edit materials and provide professional feedback. And they must demonstrate their reasoning out loud.
That implies there is no single correct answer. The machine evaluates the logic behind the choice. How can a candidate prove their reasoning to a machine?
The system expects a clear, structured, and logical explanation. You have to explain the why behind your choices.
Give me an example of explaining the why.
Say you translate a marketing slogan. You must explain why your specific words fit a young audience better than a literal word-for-word translation. The thought process itself is what the system grades. You have to show the machine how you arrived at your conclusion.
I want to share a specific example reported by a candidate to show the depth of these questions.
Please do.
A candidate applying for a Punjabi language expert role reported a fascinating task. The candidate was given sentences to correct.
Just standard correction tasks.
More than that, they had to explain when to use the informal pronoun for you, which is tu, versus the formal pronoun for you, which is tusi.
That scenario perfectly illustrates the demand for cultural context. Choosing between those two pronouns is not just a grammar rule, it is a strict social rule.
So the system was looking for that social awareness.
Yes. The candidate had to explain the cultural layers behind that choice. They had to explain how age, respect, and social hierarchy dictate which word you must use in everyday conversation.
This tests deep nuance. It is like being an architect. You cannot just point to a house and say it looks nice. You must explain how the foundation supports the walls.
You have to explain the underlying structure.
Exactly. The same candidate also reported being asked highly specific questions about the written alphabet. They had to explain when to use specific linguistic markers like bindi, tipi, and athak.
Those markers are crucial because they change nasal sounds and stress in the written script. Misusing a tipi can completely alter the meaning of a word.
So the system is looking for a breakdown of those microscopic details.
It expects candidates to explain these details clearly. The system respects the depth of the language. Candidates must be ready to break down the structural and cultural context of their native language.
We have established the theoretical depth. Now we must address the practical, mechanical challenges of taking this test.
The technical side of things.
Yeah. Some candidate reports highlight unexpected hurdles. For example, some candidates were asked to transcribe words using the International Phonetic Alphabet, often called the IPA.
The International Phonetic Alphabet is a standard tool linguists use to represent the sounds of spoken language. The intellectual challenge is knowing the symbols.
But there was a practical challenge, too. According to candidate reports, the testing interface provided no virtual phonetic keyboard on the screen.
If a candidate needs to type a special symbol and the keyboard is missing, panic usually sets in.
Candidate reports indicated they had to quickly adapt. They used an external word processor to type the symbols, then copied and pasted them back into the test.
That is a smart workaround.
In other cases, candidate reports indicated that audio recordings meant for transcription tasks were simply missing from the screen. How does someone prepare for missing pieces?
The key is anticipating friction. My advice is to have a blank document open and ready on your computer before the interview even begins.
Just keeping it available in the background.
Yes, just in case you need to type special symbols or take quick notes. If a tool is missing or a file does not load, stay calm. Use the tools you have available to adapt to the situation.
Because the system might be monitoring your adaptability.
Often, the system registers how you handle unexpected technical limits.
Staying calm leads us into the behavioral mechanics of speaking to the machine. We need to explore the biggest trap candidates face.
The silence trap.
Humans naturally stop speaking to think. We look up at the ceiling, we gather our thoughts in silence, but this system relies on voice activity detection.
Voice activity detection means the system only knows you are present if it actively hears your voice.
So if you sit quietly.
If there is a long period of silence, the system assumes you have finished your answer. It will cut you off and immediately move to the next question. You lose your chance to finish your thought.
How could a candidate take a moment to think without triggering the cutoff?
You must adopt a strategy of speaking to think. You have to briefly organize your thoughts out loud.
Can you give me an example of how that sounds?
When you receive a difficult question, do not sit in silence. Say something natural like, "Let me think for a second to find the best example." Or, "Perhaps that is an interesting scenario. Let me structure my response."
That verbal filler tells the microphone you are still actively answering. It keeps the session open.
Yes, keeping the microphone active is essential. You also need to monitor your speech speed. Speaking too fast can cause the speech-to-text transcription to misinterpret your words.
And if the transcription fails, the system grades a garbled answer.
Basically, yes. Additionally, asking the system to rephrase a confusing question is a strong tactic. It keeps the microphone active, buys you time, and shows critical thinking.
What happens when the machine itself makes a mistake? Candidate reports indicate that the system sometimes produces an unnatural or incorrect expression.
That does happen.
For example, during an Arabic voice actor interview, a candidate reported that the system used phrasing that was completely unnatural for the everyday Egyptian dialect. It even mispronounced words.
Candidate reports indicate these systems sometimes default to highly formal phrasing rather than everyday colloquial speech.
How should a candidate react to that?
When the system makes a linguistic error, it creates a hidden opportunity for the candidate.
Let us demonstrate how to handle this with a short role play. I will act as the artificial intelligence, asking a slightly unnatural, overly formal question. You act as the candidate.
Sounds good. I am ready.
Greetings, candidate. In what manner do you accomplish your daily translation objectives?
Thank you for the question. Before I detail my daily routine, I want to gently note that the phrase you just used sounds a bit too formal for casual conversation in this dialect.
Breaking character for a second, that is a really polite correction.
You have to keep it polite.
Yeah.
Then I would say a more natural way to ask that in everyday speech would be to say, how do you handle your daily translation tasks? Everyday speakers prefer shorter, more direct vocabulary. Now, to answer your question about my routine,
By correcting the error politely, the candidate's control. It proves to the evaluation system that the candidate actually understands cultural nuances better than the artificial intelligence does.
it demonstrates true domain knowledge. Correcting the system politely shows confidence and expertise, which is the specific skill set a language expert needs.
We want to summarize the most actionable steps for preparation. Instead of just listing things mechanically, let us picture a candidate preparing the day before the interview. What are the most practical things they must do?
The preparation starts with administration. Complete your government identification verification early.
Step 1, get the paperwork out of the way.
Yes. Do not leave this until the last minute, because technical glitches with identification can ruin your focus. Next, utilize the free interview preparation tool on the platform.
Does that tool simulate the actual interview?
This tool allows you to practice speaking to the system interface. It helps you master the voice activity detection we discussed earlier.
Testing the physical setup is also critical. A candidate needs to test their microphone, their webcam, and their lighting before the session.
Poor audio quality will ruin the transcription. Furthermore, candidates must commit to speaking slowly and clearly during the actual session. This helps the transcription accuracy immensely.
Any advice on the content of their answers?
Finally, candidates must stick to their real experience. Do not lie or invent complexity in your answers. The system will ask follow-up questions, and invented stories fall apart under pressure.
Passing this interview requires speaking clearly, understanding the limits of the technology, and knowing your cultural context deeply. It requires an active, structured approach to every answer.
If you take the interview and you are not selected, there is a very practical step you should take.
What is that?
You have the option to request detailed feedback through the platform. This feedback helps you know exactly what linguistic or technical areas to study before you try again.
That is incredibly useful. We invite you to like and subscribe to the show. We also have additional interview preparation workbooks and resources linked in the description below for you. Good luck with your preparation.